What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with another preview. And this time I'm going to be talking about One Championship 165 Superlek versus Takeru. I'm going to be looking at the MMA fights today in depth. And you know what? Chatri promised at the end of last year there was going to be more MMA fights on their cards, and there absolutely is. The first card of the year, I covered that, and there was a lot of MMA fights on that, and there's a lot of MMA fights on this card as well. And I think that's brilliant. I think it's really important, and I think MMA fans maybe were missing the MMA and One Championship last year, although there was still a good bit of it, but I think people, maybe noticed it, and maybe a lot of the champions kind of that weren't fighting and stuff wanted they wanted to see him back. They wanted to see the likes of Sage Northcutt back and others, and now they are. A lot of the matchmaking that's been done over the last week or 2 weeks has seen, the Ritter, Malyakin, Stamp, all match made with some very good matches as well. I'm especially looking forward to that Denise Zamboanga fight with Sam. That's very, very fun. And obviously the middleweight title fight as well, with the champ versus the champ versus the champ versus the champ, if you want to put it that way. So that's it's all well and good, and I think it's a very, very good start to the year for mixed martial arts. Like this. All the One Championship stuff I just mentioned. There's some good UFC cards coming up. If you get through all the Apex nonsense. The Bellator versus PFL card that's been announced is absolutely fantastic. There's some great Cage Warrior stuff coming up. Octagon, KSW. I think it's such a great start to the year. And, sometimes we can get a little bit negative in mixed martial arts and give out and stuff about it, but I'm really positive at this point of the year, and I'm especially positive as we talk about One Championship today for the fights they have coming up, because I did a video at the start of the year talking about some of the best fights I'd like to see this year, and I think out of the 5 fights, I think 3 of them have already being made, so we're only 3 weeks into the month and or the year even, and we're getting what we want. So that's very, very, very good. Let's get into 165. Let me run you through some of the non-MMA first, because there is some very good stuff as well coming up. I will be talking about them in the post show more, because where my expertise are with some people might disagree that my expertise are with MMA, but we'll go with that for today. But the other fights that are coming up, the flyweight kickboxing world championship is in the main event. Superlek versus Takeru. Watched a few Superlek fights, talked about him on this podcast before. Obviously fighting out of Thailand, and he's just an absolute beast. That's a really, really good fight, and I'm sure it'll be brilliant. In the co-main event, it's the submission grappling lightweight championship on the line. Keito Otola versus Tommy Langacker. That was they have grappled before, and that was really, really good. And I'm looking forward to seeing that again, so that should be fun. Couple of other things. There's a mixed rules fight. I'll talk about that in with the MMA, I think. There's a kickboxing bout as well between Sichitai and Marat Grigorian. Again, 2 absolute beasts. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And Raid Opacic against Iraz Azapur, who I remember the last time I watched one of his fights, I was just thinking, have I ever seen a human being hit as like, not necessarily as hard, but as like thumping as him? It's an absolute, 2 absolute beasts there in the heavyweight kickboxing. So that should be really, really fun. If you're a fan of the kickboxing, the Muay Thai, the submission grappling, there's a bit of it all there for you. And if you're just a fan of MMA, there's loads of MMA fights here. And there's only a few of the kickboxing Muay Thai fights. This is probably a good one for you to get into One Championship, like I have over the last while, to be honest. And I sound like I'm a promoter for One Championship or something. I absolutely am not, but I could be, because I honestly really like the product and have grown to really, really like it over the last year or two. So that's that. Let's get into the MMA fights, because there are some very, very fun ones on this card. And let's talk about the top MMA fight on the card, Shinya Aoki versus Sage Northcutt. I suppose it's a fight that has, while being long talked about, is slightly unexpected at the same time, since Sage went over. We thought this was a possibility. Obviously, I believe they were supposed to fight before. They didn't fight. Sage came in 2019, ended up losing to Cosmo, then was out for 4 years. He came back. He beat Atmesh Mushtaba, and now it's great to see Sage back in there again. Okay, there was 6 months-ish on the sidelines, but that's okay. He's back in here again. We've seen less than 70 seconds, just over a minute of Sage Northcutt in one championship so far, and that's an absolute shame. Some people don't like Sage and things like that. I've always been a fan of Sage Northcutt just because he's a nice guy and doesn't curse and doesn't drink or smoke or say bad things to people. People think less of him. I've never understood that. I think Sage is a good fighter. Was he the best fighter in the world in his UFC run? No, absolutely not. But you give a guy time to improve. If you look back at his UFC run now, he won his last 3 fights in a row. He beat some good guys, Thibaut Gouti, Zach Otto in there as well. So I think if Sage can get a run, and I've said this many times, I said it with Johnny Walker a couple of weeks ago, I say it with people all the time, if you have an unbelievable athletic base like the likes of Walker and Sage Northcutt have, there's always hope for you to get to a really high level in mixed martial arts because you have an innate advantage over everybody else. And I think that's exactly what Sage has, and if he can put it all together, he could be an absolute beast in this division or any division. Aoki then at the other side of it, Sage, we always think of him as a young lad. He's 27 now, so still very, very young. Aoki 40, he's obviously been around for a long time. Some of the names on his record from back in fighting Sakurai and Keith Wisniewski, to George Sataropoulos, to Manny Kauno, to Eddie Alvarez, to Joaquim Hansen, to Gilbert Melendez, Rich Clemente, Eddie Alvarez again, Antonio McKee, Edward Furlong, Ben Askren, Christian Lee, to Ismagayev last time out, which is an absolute beast of a fight to be fighting. That was at the end of 2022. He fought twice in 2022, twice in 2021. So it's not like he's been completely inactive, and he beat Furlong in 2021 as well. So it's not like he hasn't a good win in the last few years. But that last fight, he didn't look his best in it. I think outsized, probably, definitely too far for him in that fight. The Akiyama fight before that was very, very fun. He was winning, I suppose, until he was losing in that one. But this, I'm not sure if I like this matchmaking or don't like it. I'll tell you afterwards, I suppose, because I think it will be fun for as long as it lasts. But I think Sage should have enough for him. Like Sage, the thing about Sage is, right, well, like look at Akiyama, right? His wins, 30 submission wins. Now of Sage's 3 losses, 2 of them have been by submission. Aoki will, did I just call him Akiyama like 5 times? Aoki will go at you. He will throw flying arm bars, flying triangles. He will go mad at you. And Sage has been caught before, so there is a path to victory. So that's why I think, maybe I'll lean towards the side of liking this. Plus, it's a bit of madness, so you can't give out too much about that. I think the big issue with Aoki is, like, he has good takedowns and unbelievable submissions, and he's nasty with them, but he doesn't really like getting punched, So if Sage can stop a takedown, maybe get one of his own, although maybe not, but just hit him. Come out and throw your shots, land those shots, don't get taken down. It could be one of those nights that's very easy for Sage, but if he does get taken down, does end up on the bottom, or does end up with Aoki having his back, Aoki's so fast to take the back, it could be a very, very tough night for Sage as well. Like, Aoki will clinch from any position. He will literally go for a leg or go for an arm or go for a body lock, takedown, or whatever it might be from any position. And that's not always easy to deal with, especially for a guy like Sage, as I said, only 68 seconds of fighting in the last 5 years. I'd have to favour Sage Northcutt here. I do think he will win, but I'm look, as someone who likes a bit of fun, as someone who doesn't always take it too seriously, I think this is the this is the perfect matchup for a lot of people. We'll look at the betting odds when they come out in the betting show this week, and maybe we'll have a few different looks at it depending on what that is. But yeah, I think Sage will win it. I think he will be able to land the shots. I don't think Aoki will be able to take them, and I think it will go from there. But I'm looking forward to it. I said I'd mention the Akiyama fight in with the MMA fight, so let's do that. He is fighting Nieky Holzken, who a lot of people know as the really, really good stand-up fighter from years gone by. He's never had an MMA fight, though, according to Sherdog, but this is going to be a mixed rules fight. And on the One Championship Instagram, they have said the mixed rules are round 1 boxing, round 2 Muay Thai, round 3 MMA. So that's very interesting. Obviously, the boxing, maybe you think it'd be even. The Muay Thai, maybe you think would favour Holzken, obviously would, and the MMA would massively favour Akiyama, considering Holzken has never had an MMA fight. But the fact that the MMA round is the third round is very interesting. Like, can Akiyama get to that third round? Like, will Holzken try to knock him out? Maybe he'll try to keep it even with the boxing. Maybe he'll try to knock him out in the second round, and if he doesn't, it's going to be very, very, very tough. I like those sort of fights. We've seen them before. We've seen them with Demetrius. We've seen, there's supposed to be a lot more, but some of them fell out. But every time they've had one, I've really enjoyed it. Akiyama is had a good run at the moment, although he obviously isn't fighting that much. The last fight was that aforementioned Aoki fight, which was around just about 2 years ago now at this stage, but he won his fight before that as well, after having a few losses back, before the comeback, I suppose, he came back in 2019, but he won in 2021 and 2022, so it's this sort of thing I think that he wants to have, and why not do this? Why not have a bit of fun? And I think One Championship doing this sort of thing as well is good, because like, maybe people think, well, I just want my straight up MMA. And you know what? I just want my straight up MMA as well. Like, Francis Ngannou fight, boxing Anthony Joshua's great, but I want to see him fighting in MMA, But they're giving us plenty of MMA. They're putting the best fighters that they have into big MMA fights. And then after that, they're like, well, do you want another opportunity to do something else? And they're doing that as well, so it's a bit of fun. And I think Akiyama's at a stage now in his career where this sort of fun thing is what he should be doing. We've always seen it down through here. Say the likes of Rampage. Like, no one wanted Rampage in there with Matt Hamill. Like, no one wanted Rampage in there with some random up-and-coming wrestler. You wanted him in a fun fight. Like, imagine you could put Rampage into something like this, 7 or 8 years ago. It would have been perfect. And I like that. And I'm glad One Championship are doing it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. How do I think it'll go? I think Holzken will probably end up getting the finish in the first couple of rounds. But if he doesn't, he'll be in big, big trouble. I think my favorite fight on this, although there's a good bit of there's a good bit of competition for this. I really like Garry Tonon against Martin Nguyen. Garry Tonon, 32 years of age now, 8-1. Lost to Tan Lee, as we all know, famously with that, it was called One Championship Lights Out, and he went lights out after going for that leg lock heel hook thing, got absolutely obliterated with ground and pound, but he bounced back very, very well. He gave himself 10 months off, came back, beat Jonathan Nunes, submitted him, and then submitted Shamil Gasanov in his last fight. We saw how good Gasanov was last weekend or 2 weekends ago. And he knee-barred him in a fight which, I'm pretty sure he was the underdog. I'm pretty sure I picked against him as well. And that was an absolutely massive, massive, massive win for Garry Tonon. Now he's coming back here against Martin Nguyen, who, 34 years of age. He's been around for a long time, 15-6. Won his last fight on the Lineker versus Andrade 2 card last year. He'd lost to Fremenov before that. But, it's a test. It's a test that Garry Tonon needs against someone who does things that are tough for a guy like Tonon. And what do I mean by that? Like, he feints, he kind of stalks and counters. He's not a guy that'll give up the takedown too easy. He realizes what he's good at, I think, Martin Nguyen. Not the fastest guy in the world. Throws good kicks, throws them to the legs, throws them to the head. Maybe it wouldn't be the smartest thing to do in this fight. He does often throw too many, so that'd be my biggest worry. You know, he's obviously the former champion at 145 pounds. I think he has a very good jab, but he just doesn't throw the hands enough. Like, I was watching his fight, and I look back at my old notes, and it's the same. It's the same notes again coming in here. Throw that jab a little bit more, throw that hands a little bit more, and you'll have success. Now, I actually think when you fight Garry Tonon, you have to do that, right? So he's almost been forced into his best game here, although he's reluctant to do it. So I think this matchup actually benefits him in that way. Will he win it? We'll see about that. Tonon on the other side then, you know, you might think people probably know Garry Tonon as the jiu-jitsu, you know, world champion or whatever he is. Very, very good jiu-jitsu guy. But he's a good striker too. You know, he moves really well. It allows him to enter from different areas with his wrestling. So, like, the biggest issue for a lot of guys, say like a Garry Tonon, like say like Ryan Hall, or even a Gunny Nelson to a certain extent, they're legit and brilliant with jiu-jitsu. And with Damian Maya had a little bit of issues with this as well. But the entries, their ability to wrestle a guy to the ground, is not always there, right? And if it isn't there, then, you know, they're not the best strikers in the world. Now, Tonon is a very good striker, so that's not necessarily the case with him. But still, he wants to get the fight to the ground. Everyone knows it. It's no secret. But he uses that striking and uses those angles to get wrestling, to get the fight to the ground, to use his jiu-jitsu. So, brilliant. He has an advantage over a lot of those guys in a similar position. He'll pull guard as well. He loves a Kimura sweep takedown. Very good distance control, striking, teeps and jabs. Control a head kick and a low kick as well. I would say with the low kick, though, it's kind of slow. And I remember saying before, it's not beneficial, but it's probably beneficial if he does get taken down and he can use his wrestling on it. So, a very interesting fight. I think I'd favour Garry Tonon in this one. If you're asking me for my pick, I'd go for Tonon. I just think I could see him striking for a good bit in this fight. And maybe drawn Martin Nguyen into a bit of a striker matchup. But then, you know, if Nguyen is drawn into that, he's just opening himself up for a takedown, because, you know, you can't think you're striking with a guy like Tonon, because he will come in and he will take you down. And when he takes you down, it's going to be very hard to get back up unless the referee is the one giving you a helping hand after you tap out. So that's the way I think that fight is going to go. But I think it's going to be fun. I do think it's going to be as fun as long as it lasts. The next one I'm going to talk about here is a very interesting one in the women's atomweight division. Itsuki Hirata versus Aya Miura. Two women I've talked about many times on this show. Hirata 6-2, 24 years of age, against Miura, who's 33 years of age. 12-5. Miura, to my shock, in her last fight, beat Mangbo. Looked really good, and that got the scarf hold after. I don't know if people remember, they kind of got caught up in the ring, and they had to be put back in a different place. And again, I just really think that gives someone a big advantage when they're in that sort of position, and it absolutely did for her. You know, she lost a couple of fights before that. One of them was to the champion Sheehan, obviously, so no shame in those losses, but that win over Mangbo has put her right back in contention here, and it's massive for her. Hirata, you know, similarly had some very big fights over the last while. She beat Elise Anderson. She ended up losing a fight then, but she beat Lin Quinn, who I read very, very highly, and last time out to Soyi Ham, who obviously we saw against Nong Sam Fairtex after that. So it's March last year where was the last time she fought, and she's coming back here. And look, both of them are we see now, you know, the champions, whether it's Zhang or whether it is Stamp, they're defending their titles. You know, they're they're either fighting or looking for someone to fight, and to put yourself next in line, I think is big, and I think both of them will be trying to do that here. Hirata is just very strong. If you're to look at her as a fighter, she's fundamentally brilliant. Looks for the takedowns. I think one of her biggest issues is she kicks a lot. Similarly to Nguyen. Lot to the body. She does get caught. She does get taken down. But she is, as I said, she's very strong, so she can get back up. Straight right is good. She likes a bit of a takedown herself, low doubles, just a little bit more variation from her, I think, and she becomes a better fighter. Miura on the other side of it, then very athletic, obviously very good on the ground. I talked about her for the last fight against Mangbo, and I said she's a very good wrestler, but maybe not necessarily good enough. A similar, like this is, do you know what? This is a similar enough fight to the Tonon and Nguyen fight, I believe, because she has fantastic jiu-jitsu, like her scarf holds and her kimuras. She's Alexei Olenek, like a 3rd degree black belt. But you see her against Jing, and you see her against Mangbo, and it's the exact opposite. You see in one fight against the champ, Zhang, she spent 25 minutes and she couldn't take her down. Trying to take her down for 25 minutes, couldn't. And then she took down Mangbo in the first round and submitted her. Was it? Let me just check here. I believe it was in 3 minutes. 2 minutes and 9 seconds. That is exactly, that's exactly her. That's exactly what she needs to do. And if Hirata comes in here throwing kicks and does get taken down, it won't last long because she is unbelievable on the ground. 12 wins, 8 submissions, 4 decisions. That's exactly the type of fighter Miura is. And, do everything to avoid her. If you're Hirata, do absolutely everything you can to avoid her. Can she? Like, it's weird because Miura's like such, like she's 2-3 in her last 5 fights. For such a good fighter, she probably shouldn't be. Like, the 2 wins were scarfold wins. Mangbo is one of the best fighters they have. And she scarfolded her. Like, will she always get it? No, but, I think if Hirata's smart here, she uses her strength. She stays away from her, keeps it on the feet. I think she can win, but that's not always very easy. Only 15 minutes here as well, so that's an advantage for Hirata. Toss of a coin fight for me, really. I'm going to go with Miura. I'm going to go with a finish, but it could be Hirata in this one, absolutely. Then we have a flyweight fight between Danny Kingad and Yuya Wakamatsu. Anyone who listens to my One Championship fight previews here on Sherdog knows that I'm a big fan of Yuya Wakamatsu, the little piranha, 28 years of age, 16-6. He had a very tough time of it in 2022, was on a great run, had won 5 fights in a row, had beat Hu Yong, had beat Reese McLaren, had beat Yehia Sakuyo, but then came in, fought Adriano Moraes, even lost to him, got a comeback fight in November 2022 against Woo Sung Hoon, was massively favoured to win that and got knocked out, massive knockout inside of 3 minutes there, but he's come back against Wei Ji in his last fight, performed really, really well in that. So now he's back on that road to, to fight the big boys, to fight the Demetrius Johnsons, and all of that. Now, they have fought before. Kingad won that fight in 2018, but I don't know. Okay, you can't write it off, I don't think, but I think this is going to be a very, very different fight here. Kingad, in his last fight, he went right across the room and took out Echo Ronnie, and that might give you a kind of a false equivalence of, is that the right word? But a false sense of what he actually is. What he is really is a very well-rounded fighter with very good cardio. 15 wins, 12 decision wins, 2 submissions, 1 knockout. Doesn't have the biggest knockout power in the world, but he's very good leg kicks, attacks the body very well. He takes away your cardio while he keeps his cardio. He's a guy who does a lot and looks like he's going to get tired, but really doesn't. Very good on top, always moving. Maybe he can control a little bit more on top, but I think he banks his cardio, the fact that he'll be able to take you down again because he's going to be less tired than you are. just puts that pace in you. Whereas Wakamatsu at the other side of it, training out of Sanford MMA or Killcliff now, well-rounded as well. Good body lock takedown. But before that, leg kicks, feints well, moves very well defensively. He's a pressure counter fighter, throws nice 1-2s, just insane speed, especially that leg kick. That high lead hand is very good, but his head in the air is a massive issue for him. Will it be as big of an issue for him in this one? I'm not too sure. I think with Wakamatsu, sometimes you have a fighter like that. We see with Charles Oliveira a little bit, maybe even where they lose a few fights early in their career, then they go on a great run. They lose a few more fights, and you're thinking, okay, have they turned the corner again? Or are they going to kind of revert to type here? And not even revert to type, but are they going to struggle to overcome, I suppose, another ceiling that they've met? And I think that's the question kind of coming in here. Kingad is still only 28 years of age, young, as is Wakamatsu, both of them. So, that they were very different fighters back when they fought. It's 5 years ago now, and 6 years ago, nearly 5.5 years ago, 2018. They're both only 22, 23 years of age. But Wakamatsu lost that time. I think he'll win this time and maybe shut up a trilogy. So there's the pick for that one. Right, one or two more to get through here. The strawweight fight between Bokang, Masunyane and Keito Yamakita is a very interesting one. Actually, there's two in that division to finish up this card. The other one is between Minowa and Gustavo Balart, another one of my favorite fighters here. But first of all, on Bokang and Yamakita. Bokang, 29 years of age. He fought Jared Brooks obviously at 1-1-5-6. And that's the only loss in his career, 9-1. Got choked out in the first round of that, but came back and beat the aforementioned Minowa, who's fighting in the other fight here, in his last fight back in April of last year. Yamakita, very impressed with his win over Alex Silva in March of 2023. That was his first fight in one championship. He's over in Shoot-On Pancras before that, and was undefeated over there, and is still undefeated at 8-0. Bokang very fast, hits very hard, transitions well, switches stances very well, seems very strong, and I think if he can get all I said there going, if he can stay fast, if he can hit hard, he's a great chance of winning that. But when you come up against a guy like Yamakita, who has lovely hooks, who's very good wrestling and very strong on top, you almost have to be fast, strong, transition well, and hit hard, because he's a very, very tough matchup. He's one of these guys as well who really benefits from the knees on the ground. Like, I'll say it again, but the fact that he was happy to go to the ground with Alex Silva says a lot. He's an absolute beast on the ground. Silva, again, a toss-up fight for me. Two guys young enough in their career, untested in a lot of ways, apart from the Brooks fight for Masunyane, I suppose. But I think if Masunyane can stop the takedown, I think he can win on the feet. I also think he can lose on the feet, but I think he'll definitely lose on the ground if Yamakita is able to get the fight to the ground. As I said, strong wrestling, very good at staying there, but against Silva, even, who's a strong guy, I think he'd be better against Masunyane. And I'm going to go for Yamakita. We'll see on the betting show as well the prices here. As I record here, the prices aren't out yet, so we will see on that, obviously. But I like that fight. And then Minowa, who I mentioned, and Gustavo Balart. Minowa, only 24 years of age, 13-4. Fought Masunyane last time out, fought Jared Brooks, so he's coming off of 2 losses. He had beaten Alex Silva before that, though. He also beat Lito Adewang, who's a real top fighter, a very, very good fighter. Balart, then, he's only 4'11". I think the smallest fighter in MMA. He's given up 4 inches. It's not often a 5'3" fighter has a 4-inch advantage, but he's won 3 in a row. Also beat Alex Silva last time out. with, his size and all, it's often very tough. He's a lot of decisions on his ledger, 10 decision wins and he's 11 wins. But he's a tough, hard man, southpaw, throws the inside leg kick constantly. He was an Olympian in Greco-Roman wrestling, but he tends to strike more these days. But he's very hard to take down himself. Minowa on the other side of it, then very loose on the outside. He kind of sprints around. His fights tend to turn into jiu-jitsu matches. He's always looking for the takedown, good on top, but kind of can be held down too. And it's the way he transitions, it's kind of amazing that his fights do stay on the ground, but they do an awful lot. I think this will be a fight where it's up and down and transitions and all over the place. I think it'll go to a decision, and I think it'll probably be very close. I'm going to go with Balart. I wonder if Minowa will be able to do enough to hurt him. And if you can't do enough to hurt Balart, he'll probably win a decision against you. So that's the pick on that one. I'm going to go for Balart to win the decision in that one. So, yeah, that's it. That's the whole card. It's, do you know what? Very interesting card. I'm looking forward to watching all of those fights, and looking forward to seeing what way the results go. So we will leave it there. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.